For something as easy as pretending to fall asleep next to his boyfriend, Goshiki was more nervous about the challenge than he initially thought. He wasn't lying when he said things were now much better between him and Kogane. Their relationship did get stronger again, though there was still a thin barrier between them in certain things they both knew about. But they were fine. Neither of them was avoiding each other. They talked, they hugged, they kissed. And yet now that they were getting ready to go to sleep, Goshiki couldn't convince his heart to settle. I should have done this before we went to bed. Now it's just going to be awkward. I'm such an idiot. Why am I always making things so difficult? Because while sharing touches wasn't a trouble anymore, cuddling in bed like they used to do was still long road ahead. Goshiki wasn't sure why that was the case, but after spending over a week sleeping on the couch before, he was glad he could at least feel Kogane's presence next to him when they went to sleep. And now he was about to cross that invisible, but very much present distance between them, unsure what to expect. He probably wasn't going to get his head pushed away. Kogane wasn't like that. But having to deal with the awkwardness was perhaps even worse. Tsu? Are you feeling well? Goshiki flinched and looked up, meeting with the familiar worried look in Kogane's eyes. Yeah? I'm completely fine. Why do you ask? Well, you've been sitting here staring at nothing since I went to take a shower. And you look really nervous too. He rolled a towel in his hands and sat next to Goshiki on the bed, making Goshiki's heart skip a beat when their shoulders brushed. Is something going on? You can tell me. You know that. Goshiki let out a shaky breath, trying to ignore the urge to run his hands over his boyfriend's bare skin in search of the warmth he missed so much. I know. But it's nothing, really. It just... We were talking with others today and they were asking how we are doing now. You know, relationship-wise. And I was thinking how much better it is now. But that's not the reason to be nervous, is it? You just talked with friends. Well, yeah, but I was worried if you won't mind I was talking details about our relationship with others. An expression Goshiki could only describe as pain crossed Kogane's face. In the next moment, Goshiki found himself getting crushed in between Kogane's arms and chest, too shocked to speak. Apparently it's not as good if you are still worried about my reaction. Kanji, you wouldn't have to walk around me on eggshells if we were fine to. He pulled away a bit, only enough to comfortably cup Goshiki's cheeks. What should I do to make this better? Tell me. But it's not your fault. I hurt you, and I need to be careful now not to do it again. I don't want you to get upset. This time, the inner pain was clearly visible in Kogane's face. Goshiki was just about to start panicking when he got pulled into another, much more gentle hug. Oh, Tsu. The only thing I would get upset about would be if you hurt yourself again because you overworked yourself. Definitely not for talking to your friends or doing stuff of your own. He sighed deeply, squeezing Goshiki a bit tighter. It's going to be fine soon. I promise. Everything will be fine. Goshiki paused for a beat, the question already halfway out of his mouth. But then he just relaxed into Kogane's chest, allowing himself to enjoy the closeness he missed on every step. He'll tell me eventually. They stayed sitting in an embrace for what felt like hours and mere seconds at the same time, with Kogane gently rocking him back and forth while caressing his back, which was enough to slowly lull Goshiki into an actual slumber. The last thing he recalled was Kogane's soft hum next to his ear, promising to make everything better again. Now back home from the hospital, Taichi had more on his mind than he expected. Having Hayato asked him about kids was not as surprising. After all, he knew his fiancée wanted to have a family for years now. But despite his promise to not push the subject until they were both ready, Taichi couldn't stop the flood of worried thoughts. Hayato was his world, and the only real family he had. If he lost him, he wasn't sure what he would do. But taking care of a child was difficult even when both parents were healthy and ready, and Taichi was very much neither. Maybe it will change in the future. At least a bit. He said we will wait and there's a lot of time. Maybe they'll figure out some treatment for the hemophilia in the meantime. But if I take too long, what if he'll... Tai, you are thinking too much again. Taichi snapped out of his thoughts with a startle, for a second completely confused about where he was. A gentle hand caressed his cheek, grounding him before he could start to panic. Shh, it's okay. Take it easy. Taking a few deep breaths, Taichi finally recalled they were lounged on their couch before he spaced out, supposed to watch some movie Hayato wanted to see. Or did they start already? He couldn't recall. He glanced beside him, meeting with the dark eyes he loved so much, now watching him with the usual tenderness. I told you overthinking isn't good for you. He said it lightly, almost as teasing, but Taichi recognized the deeply hidden concern lacing his words. Sighing, he leaned his head on Hayato's shoulder, snuggling closer in a sudden desperate need for contact. I know. Sorry. He shivered slightly when the ever-so-gentle fingers ran through his hair, chasing away the last bits of the creeping cold from his soul. Don't apologize when you did nothing wrong. I just don't want you to get all panicky again. He pressed a light kiss to Taichi's hair. Are you still thinking about the kid question? Yeah. Tai, I told you that you don't have to worry about it now. We have a whole life ahead of us. There's nowhere to rush. Sighing, Taichi squeezed his eyes closed as if that could save him from the onslaught of doubts hammering on his mind. You might get bored of waiting one day. I know how important this is for you, but I don't know if... He fell silent, unable to bring himself to say his thoughts out loud. He wanted to give after taking for so long, to return everything Hayato did for him in those years they had been together at least in the same amount. But he couldn't even give him the thing he cared about the most. As if there wasn't enough reasons for Hayato to resent him already. He didn't even realize he was clenching Hayato's hand like his life depended on it until Hayato brushed his fingers over his skin, whispering reassurances into his ear. It's okay. Take a deep breath. No need to freak out. Everything is fine. I promise. Under the guidance of the soft voice, Taichi took a few shattered breaths until he let go of Hayato's hand and clutched his t-shirt in his fingers instead. Sorry. A light gust of air telling him Hayato was smiling tickled on his skin. No worries. That's what I'm here for. He continued to play with Taichi's hair, slowly but surely settling down the panic swirling inside of Taichi's chest. I just don't want you to come to hate me in the end. As if that was possible. The whole family thing, it's not more important to me than you. You'll always be my priority, no matter what. But... Shh. Nuh-uh. No more overthinking. Living for the present, remember? He pulled away a bit, taking Taichi's face in his palms. You are my family too, and also the best thing that happened to me in my entire life. I would have to be a complete idiot to chase you away over something like this. Or whatever your mind supplies you with. The only thing I'll be chasing away are those thoughts of yours. I can't promise it will work every time, but I'm going to give it my hella all. Despite the dark pit in his stomach, Taichi couldn't stop the short laugh escaping his mouth when he saw the determination on Hayato's face. Hayato really was a ray of sunshine when he wanted, and Taichi loved him for it. He let his head fall back on Hayato's shoulder, his mind emptying for the first time in days. You are incredible, you know that? Only for you, sweetheart. The fate was not on Konoha's side that day. Or maybe for the whole week? He couldn't even tell anymore. He wasn't sure if it was caused by him burning the dinner, again, or by something else he did, but Washio seemed sort of off these days, as if there was something heavy weighing on his mind. It wasn't like he was being cold or standoffish with him, but Konoha was neither blind nor stupid, and saw the distant look in his boyfriend's eyes from time to time, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. He hoped this challenge could give him some answers, if only letting him learn what Washio did when he was sleeping. But no matter how much he tried, he couldn't get Washio to sit down next to him for long enough to start. The last time he tried, about 5 minutes ago, ended up abruptly when Washio didn't even get to the couch before he had to immediately deal with something, leaving Konoha sitting on the couch like a complete idiot. Groaning in frustration, he flopped face first into the throw pillows, still hearing Washio's muffled voice from one of the rooms. He was already getting pretty tired for real, and the longer he waited, the higher was the risk he could fall asleep for real too. What's so important he can't wait with it for half an hour? Or until tomorrow? It's like he's avoiding me on purpose. The thought hurt more than he would like to admit. He always tried to convince himself that he was doing everything in his power to keep Washio happy. But sometimes, when the time was bad, he couldn't help but wonder if even his best was enough. You shouldn't lay like this, it's bad for your back. Konoha hummed into the pillow, but otherwise made no attempt to get up. Nice to see you make time to worry about me in all that calling. He heard Washio's deep sigh, and then a heavy hand squeezed his shoulder. I'm sorry. I know you've been trying to make me sit down, but this is really important. More important than me? He sat up, subconsciously clutching one of the pillows to his stomach. What's so important you can't even sit down with me for a while? What's going on? Nothing is going on. Well, apparently it is. Why are you making it such a secret? Did I do something wrong again? Sighing, Washio looked away briefly. I just can't tell you about it right now. That wasn't a no, though. As the confusion grew on strength, so did the surge of panic in Konoha's chest. It felt like he was back at square one, with Washio being upset about something he did without noticing. He got up from the couch after a short hesitation, staying standing uncertainly at the other end of the couch. Tatsu, you have to tell me if I did something that upset you. I can't do anything about it if you don't say it. I'm not upset. Then what is this expression of yours? I'm lost. Help me out a bit. He faltered a bit when he noticed Washio clenched his jaw. It seemed like he was pushing a subject he shouldn't for whatever reason, but the uncertainty was killing him right now. He needed answers. A strange chill ran down his spine when Washio looked at him. I'm just frustrated right now. Nothing is working as it should. Ice-cold hand gripped Konoha's heart, his throat tightening. What's not working? Us? Me? Then why don't you tell me what's wrong? We can work it out somehow if... I told you I can't tell you about it yet. Just don't worry about it for now, please. I need to deal with some things first before this. How can I not worry about it if it makes you like this? He knew he should drop the subject before he could say something he would regret later. But the despair bubbling in his chest was pushing him to press on, despite Washio's expression getting more and more tense with his every word. You've been acting weird the whole week, and yet you expect me to believe that nothing's happening. And you are constantly on call or texting someone and refuse to tell me what it's about. You think I'm cheating on you? What am I supposed to think? Why are you keeping a secret from me? It concerns you. That's why. Konoha flinched, the deep growl Washio let out making him shiver. He couldn't recall ever seeing Washio angry, but the stiffness in his posture and the glint in his eyes left no room for doubt that his normally so calm boyfriend was fuming inside. Then the more reason I should know about it, no? No. Why? Because you keep crossing my plans. I tried 4 times, and it never got anywhere because something keeps getting in the way. And when I ask someone for help, you immediately conclude I'm cheating on you. Why can't you just let it be and let me deal with this in peace? A complete silence settled in the room. Konoha stayed frozen in place despite every muscle almost screaming for him to take a step back before Washio could take a swing at him. He couldn't recall Washio ever being angry. Until now. And he was terrified. Sorry. His voice came out much weaker than he intended, but it was all he could get through his tightened throat. He flinched when Washio stepped towards him, even though his expression was very much back to normal, and no less than fled from the living room, locking the first door he came across behind him. With his heart beating so hard he could barely hear anything else, he slid down on the floor before his buckling knees could send him there in a much harsher way, his hands trembling as Washio's words echoed in his head. Of course, in theory, he knew Washio would never hurt him, no matter how mad he was. But right now, after seeing the usually so kind eyes darkened with anger, he had trouble convincing himself about it. He got startled by a soft knock on the door. Akiri. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. It's not your fault this whole thing is not going well. Konoha wiped his eyes to get rid of the mist gathering in his vision and took a shuddered breath, his voice taking its time to come back to him. Then whose? What's going on? A heavy sigh followed by a soft thud sounded behind his back, Washio's voice shifting to sound right behind him instead of above him. Please don't cry, dear. I see how this can look really bad, but I swear I'm not doing anything behind your back. I wanted this to be a surprise for you, but nothing is working out for me, and now I messed it up even more. But nothing of this is your fault, so please don't blame yourself. Just tell me if there's a way to expiate for this somehow. You don't have to forgive me or talk to me if you don't feel like it. I understand. But if there's a way I can make this right again, I'll do it. Once again, the space around them fell silent. Unsure what to do, Konoha raked his fingers through his hair, straining every last bit of his willpower to not cry, but to think. He wanted to forgive. Of course he did. But... Give me some time. Please. A barely hearable sound reached his ears before a slightly shaky breath drowned it out. All right. Take as much time as you need. I won't bother you, I promise. The rustling of fabric and soft footsteps walking away let Konoha know he was left alone. He hid his face in his palms, a strange exhaustion suddenly weighing his body down. Fate really didn't seem to be on his side that day. Sakusa definitely didn't miss being dragged into the various challenges the others came up with, but seeing Atsumo so excited to get back into them, he supposed it wouldn't be fair if he was always the one at the receiving end of them. After all, Atsumo's reactions were usually entertaining to watch, and despite what seemed to be a general consensus about him, Sakusa liked to have fun sometimes. He just hoped Atsumo wouldn't get any stupid ideas like drawing on his face or something like that. Can you settle down for 5 minutes? Atsumu threw him a glare and continued to rotate around on the couch like a cat getting ready to sleep, in search for a comfortable position. His words, not Sakusa's. You've already moved that pillow 5 times. How many more positions do you want to try? As many as it gets. It's not my fault you take up so much space. How dare you? You aren't that much smaller than me. Yeah, that's the point. Because I'm tall, I take up space, and you should not be sharing the same space. Sakusa put on his best set face he could muster. So, you don't want me here? Atsumu froze mid-movement, something akin to guilt flashing over his face when he dropped the pillow and threw his arms around Sakusa. Of course I want you here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Sighing, Sakusa ran his fingers through Atsumu's hair, taking note of how dry they felt again due to bleaching, and gently flicked his forehead. It seemed like Atsumu still had one of his previous challenges in vivid memory. And to be honest, Sakusa had too. It didn't happen often anymore, but there were times he could clearly hear Atsumu telling him he doesn't deserve him. And even though he knew it was just a challenge, his mind always managed to make the words sound real. Too real for his liking. Don't be sad, Ome, please. It makes me sad too. Sakusa glanced down at Atsumu, who was now watching him with worry written in his eyes, and allowed himself a small smile. He cupped Atsumu's cheeks, squishing them a bit until Atsumu started to grumble. I'm not sad. Yeah, sure, that's why you were doing that face. What face? The sad face. I know all your expressions by now, so you can't hide anything from me. Sakusa rolled his eyes, but he would lie if he said his heart didn't flutter upon hearing his boyfriend's words. Atsumu really could be very sweet and considerate when he wanted. As much as he wished they could stay like this, with Atsumu lying on top of him with his head on his chest, he needed them to sit for the challenge. And so he nudged Atsumu to get off him and sat up, making himself a bit more comfortable. Anything you say. What do you want to watch? Atsumu shrugged and finally settled in between the pillows, though Sakusa could swear he saw a glimpse of uncertainty in his eyes. I don't really care. Just not something with rating under 50%. Alright. He put on a random movie from their library and leaned back, waiting for the right moment to start the challenge. He let his head fall when it looked like Atsumu was fully indulged in the movie before leaning fully into Atsumu's side, leaving his head on his shoulder. Atsumu seemed a bit startled by the sudden new weight on his shoulder, but then a soft chuckle reached Sakusa's ears. You are lucky you didn't choose a movie this time. He gently nudged his head. Come on, you're missing the whole plot. It's finally getting interesting. You are really going to fall asleep on me, huh? There was a short silence, after which Atsumu sighed softly and pulled Sakusa even closer. I hope you don't think that I don't want you next to me. You know I would gladly spend my whole life stuck to your side, right? Figuratively and literally. I mean, what idiot would pass on being with someone like you? A light kiss landed on top of Sakusa's head. So don't think I don't want you around, okay? You are welcome to invade my personal space on the couch as much as you want. Or even away from the couch. You know what I mean. Apparently satisfied, Atsumu hummed quietly and kissed Sakusa's forehead before lowering the volume on the TV and wrapping still very much awake Sakusa in a warm embrace. Love you, Umi. Remember that, okay?